Carlos Scotland, a confessed killer, walks into court for his sentencing. The 19-year-old pleaded guilty in November to killing 36-year-old Ashia Davis, a transgender woman of color, in her room at the Woodward Inn in Highland Park on June 1st of 2023.
What happens when a life full of promise is cut short by violence? How does society respond when a young black trans woman becomes a victim of a crime that echoes the struggles faced by many in the LGBTQ+ community? The case of Ashia Davis, a vibrant 34-year-old nursing student, raises these haunting questions and more. Ashia Davis's life was brutally cut short in an act of violence that echoes the grim reality faced by many black transgender women in the United States. On June 1st, 2023, she was found murdered in a Detroit hotel, her dreams and aspirations stolen in an instant. Her case is not just a tragic loss, but a stark reminder of the ongoing dangers faced by transgender individuals, particularly black trans women, who remain disproportionately targeted by violence. Ashia was more than a statistic. She was a daughter, a friend, and a woman determined to carve out a future for herself. Having completed nursing school, she was working toward a career in healthcare, a field she hoped would allow her to uplift others. Yet, like so many transgender women, her existence was met with cruelty. Her murder at the hands of her 17-year-old boyfriend, Carlos Lamar Scotland, highlights not only the prevalence of intimate partner violence within marginalized communities, but also the urgent need for greater protection, understanding, and justice for trans individuals. Ashia's story deserves to be told, not just as a cautionary tale, but as a call to action against the violence that continues to claim transgender lives. Before we dive into the video, welcome to True Crime Talks, where we uncover chilling true crime stories, dissect complex cases, and illuminate the unanswered questions that keep us up at night. From shocking crimes that shook the world to little-known stories that demand justice, we leave no stone unturned. Join our growing community of true crime enthusiasts by hitting that subscribe button below. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Ashia Davis was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, a city known for its resilience and rich cultural history. From a young age, she stood out for her kindness, ambition, and determination to create a life of meaning. Raised in a working-class household, Ashia's childhood was shaped by the love and strength of her family, but also by the struggles that came with growing up in a world that was not always accepting of those who dared to live authentically. As a child, Ashia was deeply compassionate and had an innate desire to help others. She was the kind of person who would stand up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves, offering a listening ear or a comforting presence. Friends and family remember her as someone who radiated warmth, a young girl who dreamed big despite the obstacles that lay ahead. Her love for animals enriched Ashia's early life, particularly her pet Yorkie, Clyde, who became a source of comfort and companionship. This bond highlighted her nurturing nature and desire to care for others. Friends described Ashia as someone who would go out of her way to help those in need, whether it was feeding stray animals or assisting homeless individuals. Her compassionate spirit made a lasting impression on those around her. Ashia's school years were not without difficulty. She was bright and determined, excelling academically, but she also faced challenges related to her gender identity. From an early age, she knew she was different, and that realization was both empowering and terrifying. As she grew older, the disconnect between who she was inside and the way the world perceived her became more apparent. Despite societal pressures and the fear of rejection, Ashia was unwavering in her identity. She found solace in close friendships and support from those who accepted her for who she truly was. However, navigating life as a transgender woman, especially as a black transgender woman, meant encountering discrimination and adversity that many others never had to face. Her journey was one of courage, self-acceptance, and perseverance. While many young transgender individuals struggle to find a sense of belonging, Ashia was determined to carve out a space for herself where she could be seen, heard, and valued. Her story is not just one of hardship, but of strength, a young woman who refused to be defined by the limitations others tried to place upon her. Ashia's transition was not just a physical transformation, but an emotional and social one as well. Coming into her identity as a transgender woman was a deeply personal journey, filled with moments of both triumph and struggle. Like many transgender individuals, Ashia faced internal battles before she could fully embrace her truth. Growing up in a world that often marginalizes and invalidates trans identities, she had to confront feelings of fear, self-doubt, and the uncertainty of how her loved ones would react. However, Ashia's determination to live authentically outweighed her fears. When she made the decision to transition, she did so with courage. She sought out resources, educated herself on the process, and found a support system within the LGBTQ+ community. While some members of her extended family struggled to understand, Ashia remained patient, giving them the time and space to learn and accept her for who she truly was. However, society was not always as understanding. Transgender individuals, especially Black trans women, often face significant barriers, from employment discrimination to healthcare inequities and even violence. Ashia was no exception. She encountered harassment and judgment from strangers, and there were moments when she felt the weight of the world's prejudices pressing down on her. Despite these challenges, Ashia was resilient. She found strength in her identity and refused to let the ignorance of others dictate her worth. She connected with other trans women who had walked similar paths, drawing inspiration from their stories of survival and success. Through these connections, she gained confidence, realizing that she was not alone in her journey. One of Ashia's biggest milestones was legally changing her name and gender marker, a step that allowed her to live more freely. For many transgender individuals, this is a powerful moment, one that affirms their identity and gives them a sense of ownership over their own lives. For Ashia, it was a victory in a world that often sought to erase people like her. Throughout her transition, Ashia celebrated milestones such as hormone replacement therapy, HRT, and changes in appearance that aligned with her gender identity. These changes were not merely physical. They represented profound shifts in how she perceived herself and how she wanted the world to see her. Despite facing external judgments, Ashia remained resolute and lived authentically. She also began to explore her personal style, embracing the freedom to present herself in a way that felt true to who she was. Whether through fashion, makeup, or simply the way she carried herself, Ashia exuded confidence and self-love. Her transition was not just about how she looked, but about how she felt: comfortable, authentic, and proud. While she still faced discrimination and hardship, she never let it break her spirit. She used her experiences as fuel to push forward, knowing that she deserved a future where she could thrive. Despite the challenges she faced, Ashia was determined to build a life for herself, a future that reflected her dreams and aspirations. She had always been passionate about helping others, and that passion led her to pursue a career in healthcare. Completing nursing school was one of Ashia's greatest achievements. The journey was not easy. Balancing school, personal challenges, and societal pressures required immense perseverance. Yet, with unwavering determination, she pushed through every obstacle. For Ashia, nursing was more than just a career. It was a calling. She was passionate about making a difference, offering care and compassion to those in need. Her own experiences seeking healthcare as a transgender woman exposed her to disparities in the medical system, particularly the lack of understanding and respect for trans patients. She hoped to change that. Ashia aspired to work in an environment where she could advocate for better healthcare access for marginalized communities, ensuring dignity and proper treatment for all. She planned to continue her education, specializing in areas that would allow her to uplift and support others in the LGBTQ+ community. Tragically, just days before she was set to begin her new job as a nurse, her dreams were cut short. Despite her resilience, intelligence, and kindness, Ashia's life was taken too soon. She had worked tirelessly to build a future, only to have it stolen in an instant. On June 1st, 2023, Ashia Davis, a 34-year-old Black transgender woman, was found fatally shot at the Woodward Inn in Highland Park, Michigan. That evening, she met with 17-year-old Carlos Lamar Scotland, with whom she had been in contact prior to their encounter. Reports indicate that Scotland had reached out to Ashia through multiple phone numbers, later deleting them, an action suggesting an attempt to cover his tracks. As the night unfolded, the situation took a tragic turn. Around 11 p.m., police received calls regarding a shooting at the Woodward Inn. When officers arrived, they discovered Ashia with a fatal gunshot wound. Scotland had already fled the scene, leaving many questions unanswered. The motive behind the shooting was unclear in the immediate aftermath, deepening the sorrow felt by Ashia's loved ones and community. As a close friend and advocate for transgender rights poignantly stated during a victim impact statement,
"Two people were in that room that night and will ever know the true events of what happened."
only 2 people were in that room that night and will ever know the true events of what happened. The Michigan State Police launched an extensive investigation into Ashia's murder. Surveillance footage captured Scotland leaving the scene shortly after the gunfire. Over the next 9 months, detectives meticulously pieced together evidence, working to bring justice to Ashia and those who mourned her loss. One of the key aspects of the investigation into Ashia Davis's murder was the role of digital forensics in establishing a clear connection between her and Carlos Lamar Scotland. Investigators discovered that Scotland had contacted Davis using multiple phone numbers, a tactic often employed to obscure interactions or evade traceability. These numbers were linked to various burner phones or temporary lines, making it initially difficult for law enforcement to pinpoint consistent communication between the two. However, forensic analysts were able to retrieve deleted data from Davis's phone, uncovering messages and call logs that had seemingly been erased in an attempt to cover Scotland's tracks. Through advanced data recovery techniques, authorities reconstructed text exchanges between the two, revealing an intense and emotionally charged relationship that had been deteriorating in the weeks leading up to the murder. Some of the recovered messages suggested tension and fear, with Davis expressing concerns about being kept a secret and Scotland becoming increasingly paranoid about their relationship being exposed. Investigators also discovered that Scotland had tried to wipe his own phone clean, deleting entire conversations and even resetting his device to factory settings. However, backup data retrieved from cloud storage provided additional evidence of their ongoing disputes. This deliberate effort to erase digital footprints was viewed by law enforcement as a significant indicator of premeditation. It demonstrated that Scotland was not only aware of the implications of his relationship with Davis, but also actively trying to hide his connection to her, suggesting that his actions on the night of June 1st, 2023 were not impulsive but calculated and deliberate. While digital evidence helped establish motive and communication patterns, the ballistic analysis of the crime scene provided chilling confirmation of the nature of the attack. Ashia Davis had been shot at close range in the back of the head, a method of killing widely recognized as an execution-style murder. Ballistics experts examined the entry wound, gunpowder residue, and bullet trajectory, determining that the shot was fired from an extremely close distance, likely within just a few inches of Davis's head. This type of attack indicated that Scotland had absolute control over the situation when he pulled the trigger. Unlike in crimes of passion, where gunshot wounds are often erratic or multiple shots are fired in the heat of the moment, an execution-style killing is typically cold, premeditated, and deliberate. Investigators also noted that the lack of any defensive wounds on Davis's body suggested that she may not have seen the attack coming or had little time to react. This further supported the theory that Scotland had planned the murder ahead of time, rather than acting spontaneously in a fit of rage. The weapon itself was another crucial piece of evidence. While the gun was not immediately recovered at the crime scene, forensic teams later traced it to an unregistered firearm that Scotland had allegedly obtained through illicit means. Tests confirmed that the bullet extracted from Davis's skull matched the firearm that was eventually found in Scotland's possession. This meticulous ballistic examination reinforced the prosecution's case, painting a picture of a murder that was not driven by temporary emotions, but by a premeditated decision to silence Davis permanently. On November 15, 2024, Carlos Lamar Scotland was sentenced to 17 to 30 years in prison for the second-degree murder of Ashia Davis, a 34-year-old Black transgender woman. The sentencing took place in the 30th District Court in Highland Park, Michigan, and was marked by emotional testimonies from Davis's friends and family, who spoke passionately about the profound impact her death had on their lives and the community. During the hearing, Judge Bridget Officer Hawley emphasized the brutality of the crime and the need for accountability. The prosecution argued that Scotland's actions were not only premeditated, but also reflected a broader societal issue regarding violence against transgender individuals. They highlighted how Ashia's murder occurred on the first day of Pride Month, underscoring the tragedy of losing a vibrant life meant to inspire change within the healthcare field. Victim impact statements delivered during the sentencing were poignant and heart-wrenching. Friends described Ashia as a compassionate person who always sought to uplift others. Julissa Abad, a close friend, expressed her anguish.
The last memory that I have is seeing my friend on the floor outside of the hotel corner room with blood screaming all over the floor.
The last memory I have is seeing my friend on the floor, blood screaming all over. Other community members echoed her sentiments, emphasizing how Ashia's death left an indelible mark on their lives. In delivering her sentence, Judge Hawley remarked on the need for society to address the violence faced by marginalized communities. While Scotland's sentence provided some measure of justice for Ashia's family and friends, it also served as a stark reminder of the ongoing struggle against anti-transgender violence. The courtroom was filled with both sorrow and resolve, as attendees vowed to continue advocating for justice and safety for all members of the LGBTQ+ community. The murder of Ashia Davis on June 1, 2023, serves as a stark reflection of the broader societal issues regarding violence against transgender individuals, particularly those from marginalized backgrounds. Ashia's tragic death, occurring on the first day of Pride Month, highlighted the alarming reality that many in the LGBTQ+ community face daily: the persistent threat of violence fueled by transphobia and societal stigma. Her murder is not an isolated incident, but part of a troubling trend that underscores the urgent need for systemic change. Ashia's murder exemplifies how violence against transgender individuals, especially Black trans women, is often rooted in deeply ingrained societal prejudices. According to the Human Rights Campaign, at least 35 transgender individuals were murdered in 2023 alone, with many cases remaining unsolved or underreported. This violence is exacerbated by a culture that frequently marginalizes and dehumanizes transgender people, leading to increased vulnerability. Advocacy groups emphasize that the stigma surrounding transgender identities contributes to a climate where violence is not only tolerated but often overlooked. The chilling effect of Ashia's murder rippled through her community, prompting conversations about safety and acceptance. Activists like Julissa Abad have pointed out that trans women of color experience disproportionately high rates of violence, often at the hands of individuals who cannot reconcile their attraction to trans women with societal norms. Abad's poignant remarks following Ashia's death underscored this reality. Men that are enamored with trans women cannot be themselves and have to resort to loving us in private and killing us in public. Such statements illuminate the dangerous intersection of misogyny, racism, and transphobia that fuels violence against marginalized communities. In response to such tragedies, advocacy groups play a crucial role in raising awareness and pushing for systemic change. Organizations like the Fair Michigan Justice Project and the National Black Justice Coalition have been at the forefront of seeking justice for victims like Ashia Davis. They work tirelessly to ensure that cases involving violence against transgender individuals are taken seriously by law enforcement and that perpetrators are held accountable. These organizations also focus on educating communities about the unique challenges faced by transgender individuals. They advocate for policy changes aimed at strengthening protections for LGBTQ+ people, including improved training for law enforcement to handle cases involving transgender victims with sensitivity and effectiveness. As Victoria Kirby York from the National Black Justice Coalition stated, "While we take the time this month to celebrate our community, we also need to amplify and demand protection from the constant violence we face." Since Ashia's death, reports indicate that violence against transgender individuals has continued unabated. In 2024 alone, at least 32 transgender and gender-expansive people were murdered in the United States, according to data compiled by advocacy groups. The ongoing violence highlights a disturbing trend. Despite increased visibility and advocacy efforts, many transgender individuals still face life-threatening risks simply for being who they are. The statistics reveal a grim reality. While awareness of LGBTQ+ issues has grown, tangible changes in societal attitudes and legal protections remain slow. Cam Towns from Fair Michigan remarked during sentencing hearings, Senseless murders like this just add to the fear that people already feel. This fear is palpable within communities, as many LGBTQ+ individuals continue to express concerns about their safety in public spaces. Ashia Davis's murder serves as a tragic reminder of the urgent need for societal change regarding violence against transgender individuals. The intersection of race, gender identity, and social stigma creates a perilous environment for many in the LGBTQ+ community. Advocacy groups continue to fight for justice and raise awareness about these issues, but much work remains to be done. As society reflects on Ashia's life and untimely death, it must confront uncomfortable truths about prejudice and violence against marginalized communities. The legacy of Ashia Davis should inspire not only remembrance, but also action. Action aimed at creating a world where all individuals can live freely and safely without fear of violence or discrimination.